Thank you for joining us for a special feature on Film Bazaar 2025. Today we have Niharika Puri, screenwriter of the movie White Guy, selected for the Screenwriters Lab this year at Film Bazaar, joining us. Niharika, welcome to this discussion.
Thank you for having me.
You've had a rich journey through writers' rooms and studios. What led you to start writing White Guy?
So, when I thought of White Guy, the initial idea first came to me when, as a teenager, I had done my first trip to the UK, and I had met my uncle's friend over there, who had vitiligo. He'd gone completely white, and even though he was Sikh, he was living completely as a white passing person. And I found that duality in his identity very interesting. That you are white on the outside, but you are of Sikh heritage on the inside. So I thought it would be interesting to explore that as a story, but just the skin change would not have had enough meat in the story, at least according to me. And that's when I began doing a little more research into that world, finding other elements that sort of added to the themes of identity, authenticity, and belonging. And that's how the story of White Guy began to take shape.
What drew you to set the story in 1980s Birmingham, and how did you approach writing that period authentically?
So the story of White Guy, if I had just taken the skin change, could have happened in any era. But when I began looking into 1980s Birmingham specifically, or 1980s UK in general, it was Thatcher era England. There was a lot of politics, discrimination. It was also the birth of the daytimer circuit, which is these underground clubs where South Asians can get together, they can party, because you were not allowed to party at nighttime nightclubs. And if you were a brown person, you would not have been allowed there anyway, right? So a lot of teenagers would attend these daytimer clubs. If there's a free period in your school, you go, you party, you meet your peer group from your fellow Indian, Pakistani circles. You actually get to meet girls one on one instead of, just being sheltered away from them by your family. So it was a very liberating time. It was also the birth of Punjabi Bhangra pop music. So it was a tremendous time for music and a lot of just teenage rebellion and just an assertion of your identity at a time when you're living in a country that won't necessarily listen to you. You don't feel heard. So I thought that was a very interesting story to build on, along with the story of a boy who's changed his skin color. And to add authenticity to the world, I have with me Ankit Bhatt, who's an actor, and he's come on board as a fellow writer on this project. He's from the Midlands. This is his first feature film script to write, and he is also passionate about telling South Asian stories passionately. So I was very clear that we need somebody who's got a voice from there, because it's not just about historical accuracy when you write a script in that era. It's also about the emotional truth of living in that time. Daytimers don't exist in the present day, so it was only in that perfect 1980s, early 2000s space where it was there. 1985 specifically was a very tumultuous year, so it felt like the perfect backdrop against this teenage coming of age musical.
How has your experience at the Film Bazaar Screenwriters Lab shaped the script or your approach to developing it further?
I think it gave a lot of perspective on the version that I had initially, because that was a version that I just felt was right. But my mentor in the script lab was Christina Andrews, and what she provided was a wonderful perspective on writing the script. Yes, it has been written with a South Asian lens, but if this film has to resonate universally, it needs to be culturally understood even by Western audiences. So there are certain nuances that we take for granted when we write in the script. It's understandable to us, but there's a lot of non-South Asian audiences who will not be able to understand. There's a lot of things that won't translate emotionally as well on screen. So it's about striking that balance between not over-explaining one's own culture to the South Asian audience, where they get bored. You already know this. Why are the characters saying these words? And also welcoming other non-South Asian audiences. This is how it is, and this is why it's personal. This is why this is a story of this belonging, and why we feel strongly about it. So that was the most important feedback, striking that balance.
Could you give us an instance, on what you had to change? I mean, what it was, and what really influenced you. How your mentor influenced you.
I think just a lot of seek nuances in terms of why is Ranvijay is the main protagonist of the story, why is his father opposed to Ranvijay listening to Western music, and it is very obvious for us, I think, when we listen to modern music in our culture, that our parents say, "Oh, our old songs were better. Why are you listening to these songs?" But there was a nuance there, like, but why exactly? Is it a cultural problem? Is it a religious problem that you should be listening to devout music? You should be listening to Sikh music, the voice of the ragis. Because we have another character in the story who is Muslim British Pakistani, and his problem is different when his family opposes the music. It's not just because you're listening to modern music for the 80s, it's also the fact that the family considers music haram. So you're not even supposed to be engaging in musical activities. So our Sikh protagonist has a different problem when it comes
Got
to
it.
music. It's a cultural gap. But with the Muslim character, it's like it's against our very religion. How dare you not only listen to music, you perform it publicly for the other South Asian teenagers and daytimers. So what is the problem of each community had to be specified. It's evident to us, but not necessarily to someone on the outside
Right.
looking in.
Right. You've worked across mainstream and digital formats. How does writing something like The White Guy differ from series work?
Oh, immensely. Because the thing about series work is you're thinking more in terms of world building. So yes, there's characters, but there's a much greater world. You keep expanding it. With every, there's so much structuring to be done in each episode. Each episode has to end with a cliffhanger. So you have to think along those lines. There has to be enough meat for season two. So you need to have that already in your mind. Your world has to be developed to the point where you can
Right.
make a second season. You can't make a finite series. But with a film, unless you're building a franchise, it's one and done. So you have to tell a finite story, wrap it up very neatly in that. Nobody has to wait for the sequel for further answers. This is it, this is the world. And when that ends, it's done, it's gone. So I think White Guy was very liberating to write in that sense after a slew of series.
What were some of the challenges of writing about race, belonging, and privilege through a fantastical lens?
I know, I think when one hears about the logline of White Guy, it sounds fantastical, but because it's a true thing that has happened to somebody I know, it didn't sound very fantastical to me because I've seen him, speak Punjabi and Hindi. My uncle's friend with the Telugu, and I thought, okay, this is perfect. And when it comes to authenticity, I was just very clear that I needed a voice from the other side, someone who is a part of the Midlands who can come in and tell me or talk to people on that side and tell me what that's like. So while I myself spoke to a few people who are based in the UK who secretly attended daytimers in their youth, and they still are very hesitant to talk about it because even though their parents themselves are very scared to admit to their parents that we used to attend that in the 80s. It was just a lot of that research, the music of that time, listening, getting a sense of that flavor, talking to people, and based on my experiences there, the life there, and just compiling all of that together. What is the most authentic version of that world that I've witnessed and so many others have lived through?
For writers applying to Film Bazaar, what's your advice on preparing a script or pitch for a lab like this?
Oh well, yeah. Uh, my honest advice would be that write a version of the draft that scares you, whether it's too political, too personal, intense, whatever. It's your instinct is your beating heart. Please go ahead. Please bleed on that page, and your mentor will help you refine the rest. So just be fearless on paper. Because if there's anything that distinguishes one writer from another, it's the sheer authenticity of your experiences or your research or your own passion that you bring to the page. So when you do that, I think that's where the real magic happens. That's where you and your mentor will get a certain synchronicity and know how to take it ahead.
What's next for you after the lab? Are there plans to take White Guy into production or to develop other scripts?
I think definitely do both simultaneously. One would obviously keep one's fingers crossed for the lab that it gets the platform it needs, the support, the producers, funding, director, everything. But things usually take a lot of time in the industry while we all hope that things happen overnight. While that is happening on the other side, yes, I would want to develop my other stuff. Whenever it comes to speculative writing, I love doing movies. So I would love to keep writing more and more film scripts in hand. And who knows, maybe seeing you guys again next year with another lab script. We'll see how that goes.
Hope so too. We hope so too. And thank you so much, Niharika. I'm sure
Yeah.
you will be an inspiration for people who want to participate in the lab. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
so
for
much.
your time with us today.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.